Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 1, Peace and Conflict Studies, Nature and Scope. Are continuing some approaches to the study of peace, and today we will discuss the political economy approach. The political economy approach draws attention to the political and economic structures of the international system, which create conditions for inequitable distribution of wealth among and within nations. The structural domination of capitalism leads to the exploitation of the impoverished by the rich. The inability of the existing structures to accommodate the demand for improvement in material well-being generates divisions in society. The political economy approach examines the nature of the modern political economy and its implications for social and international conflicts. Now, economic disparities. The world is divided by income gaps between the rich and the poor. The share of the income for the richest 20% of the world population expanded from 70% to 85% between 1960 and 1991. Some 1.3 billion people on the earth have incomes of less than 150 US dollar per capita a year. Rich industrial countries have less than a quarter of the world's population but consume over three-quarters of the goods produced in the world. However, the need for food and other basic economic necessities has not been met in many parts of the world. The number of people suffering from nutritional deprivation has steadily increased. In many poor countries, the population also have a high level of illiteracy and lack a proper level of education. These miserable life conditions are attributed to the failure of economic systems. The next point is free market economy and class relations. To produce opportunities for the marginalized, an equitable global economic order is essential. However, there have been arguments about the means for narrowing gaps between the poor and the rich. In the classic economic liberalism, a universally valid rule is that the good of all could only be achieved by self regarding individualism and the pursuit of wealth. Market exchange is supposed to satisfy the self interest of individuals while providing a medium for benefiting all. The role of government is to nurture a political environment for promoting a free market society and to protect the rights of private property. With the control of market values over economic activities, there is no concern about exploitation. It is often ignored that open competition favors those who set up the rules and have the ability to influence the system. Moral dimensions are not prominently reflected in the social calculus of capitalist society. In Marxist interpretation, capitalism based on a free market mechanism is not just a way of organizing an economy, but in it a dominant class control states, cultural and religious institutions to reinforce its superior economic position. Marxism analyzes social structure in terms of relations between two antagonist classes: the proletariat, comprised of workers who earn wages for their physical work, and the bourgeoisie, who monopolize capital needed to make investment in production. By paying less to workers than they deserve, the capitalist class takes the surplus value created by labor. The causes and driving forces of conflict are inequality in society, and violence is the manifestation of the struggle between these classes. Class antagonism can be resolved through the achievement of an equal society that does not have an exploitative economic relationship. Since individual actions would be ineffective in fighting against a ruling class, building solidarity among the masses is important. The proletariat is recognized as the most critical social force in the struggle for achieving a classless and harmonious society. The next point is international capitalism and war. The relationship between economic growth and international conflict has been explained by the necessity of industrial states to look for foreign markets and raw materials that are crucial for continuing prosperity by liberal thinkers themselves. John Hobson, the 19th century liberal British economist, concluded that the saturation of domestic economic activities produces pressure for expansionist policies in capitalism. Defense: the imperative to find markets for surplus goods arising from uncontrolled capitalist production and the necessity to compete for increased productivity result in imperialism. From this perspective, competition between colonial powers in pursuit of foreign markets and raw materials is a driving force behind international conflict. Marxist Leninist thinkers also attribute imperialism to the economic structure of capitalist states. The crisis of low domestic consumption that inevitably arises from iniquitous economic relations compels these states to seek external markets for surplus products and investment of capital. According to Lenin, an external outlet for surplus goods and financial investments is needed for the survival of capitalism. Imperialism is thus an inevitable outcome of the expansion of capitalism on a global scale. With the rise of international capitalism, the contradiction inherent in capitalism, particularly the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few, reproduces itself on a global scale, resulting in international economic inequalities and the enrichment of one state at the expense of another. According to Lenin, war will be ended in a classless society to be created by world revolution. The next point is economic integration and globalization. One of the most distinctive characteristics of the last 2 decades is a trend towards global economic integration. The internationalization of capitalism, creation of new political alignments, transformation of social values, and the acceleration of scientific and technological advances have facilitated this process. The promotion of free market economy at both the national and international levels through privatization and liberalization programs has accelerated the global economic integration. Thus, global economic integration puts a further premium on the perpetuation of capitalism oriented socio-economic disparities globally. Economic globalization reduces the role of states to adjusting national policies to the dynamics of an unregulated global economy. The state mainly remains to enforce legal and political framework for a free market mechanism. Industrialized states have supported private enterprises by enforcing contracts and using an instrument of political leverage to impose market rule worldwide. On the other hand, the vulnerable element of society have been further marginalized by the privatization of many public economic functions. Distribution has not been a major concern in the process of economic globalization based on a free market system. Globalization has produced both prosperous and marginalized economic sectors. In the technology sectors capable of producing a great variety of value added products, skilled core workforces have secure employment with the excellent payment. However, traditional economic sectors hire many unskilled, low paid labor forces located in a multitude of production units spread across the globe. Poor women and children are working for multinational corporations whose production facilities moved to the third world to avoid minimum wage requirements and other labor standards in their home countries. The comparative advantage of cheap labor is found in the most aggressive and repressive states such as China, Malaysia, and other newly industrialized countries that are leading exporters of consumer goods sold in North America and Europe. In these countries, labor discipline is tightly enforced, with severe limitation on workers' rights to maintain political stability and support capital accumulation. The next point is social transition. Many poor countries in the world today are former European colonies and share experiences of years of exploitation and frustration with the dominant structure of international political economy. In bringing about the modern transformation, Capitalism as a dominant institutional nexus has destroyed indigenous economies. In the third world, traditions of self sufficient economies have been pushed aside. Local exchange relationships dissolved and collective forms of ownership broken up. The spread of markets into the domain of traditional life increased the number of households losing control over subsistence means in the process of being integrated into new economic relations. Commodity production pushes impoverished peasants, pastoralists, and women to unproductive land. Global economic expansion created conditions of social segregation and fragmentation within countries. Economic decisions are disentangled from family, gender, and social relations as well as cultural traditions. The incorporation into a cash economy leads to the devaluation of traditional productive activities of women. The cost of economic marginalization include social polarization and destruction of internal linkages. Now we want to wind up this lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.